Welcome to another edition of Mindset Profits, and today we want to shift things to a topic that I know many of you will find interesting. Actually, if there's one thing that catches entrepreneurs unaware and unprepared, it's two things: their death and their retirement. Because a lot of the time you start a business, you get excited with how it's going and you are all systems go until you realize that you are 50, you're 55, you're 60, you don't have a lot of your productive time left to work, but you don't have these two things set up. You're not ready for your retirement and you're not ready for your death should anything happen. What we want to do today is get into the intricacies of how you can clean house and sort yourself out in that department. So from today, hopefully this will be a challenge to someone to just go back and get your house in order. I'm joined today by Brajo, a man I met him hosting radio on Hopper Live Radio, and he is a brilliant host. Brajo, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Ndando. You're putting a lot of pressure with that introduction. But yeah, thank you. Nice to be here.
You are a brilliant host. So I'm actually curious, if you were to introduce yourself and we were live on radio, how would you go about it?
Oh yeah. Look, my name is Joan Getani. I work as a financial planner. And of course I give advice in the insurance space that covers risk cover, it covers your investments, your retirement planning, all that space. It's in which I operate.
But that's not how you introduce yourself.
Oh, really? Well, this is not Hope Alive, so it should be slightly different.
You go your disclaimers.
Oh yeah.
Free.
Oh yeah.
Welcome.
Absolutely.
Let's go.
Yes. No, awesome. Yeah. I'd like to throw a disclaimer. Of course, I work for a financial institution, one of the big ones in the country, and of course, I'm here to discuss financial planning, and of course I do want to exonerate the company that I work for, that the views that I'm going to share on this platform are not necessarily theirs. I'm here in my personal capacity. There we go.
I'm sure you feel better now.
No, I do.
I've never heard you host anything without that disclaimer.
I don't want trouble, but I mitigate my risks.
Is it a corporate thing?
Yeah, I think it's a corporate thing. I mean, a lot of things can go wrong. You know, I might just well get excited from the coffee that you gave me and I'll start saying wrong things, you know what I mean? So we don't want anyone to land in trouble. So it's better to keep things safe and sound.
Beautiful. Yep. And thank you for joining us here.
Welcome. Thank you.
I know we'll drop some real value for entrepreneurs and anyone who's working and not an entrepreneur.
Yep.
Because we assume that for those that are in full-time employment, companies set up structures to help them with their retirement. But not every company does this.
Absolutely.
There are a lot of people out there that are working for small businesses and they don't have that set up. And you realize at a later age that your productive hours are diminishing and you don't have your house in order. Why is it so important to think about these things?
Yeah, quite true. Dan, from what you were saying, that from, times ago in the 70s and the 60s, whenever people would be employed by the company would actually set up some kind of retirement fund. It's either a pension fund or a provident fund. And of course, people would depend on that up to the date when they retire. But the economy has changed for many different reasons. Company structures have changed, remuneration structures have changed. So some companies no longer offer such benefits like a provident fund or a retirement annuity or anything like that. They'll basically pay you cash, cost your company, and of course you've got to see for yourself as to whether you're going to buy yourself some kind of retirement plan or anything like that, So it's specifically those people that have to make a plan for themselves that we need to speak to today. Of course, it does speak to people as well that are employed by corporates that offer these benefits, who actually might have a false impression that whatever they have with the employer, those contributions by the employer and themselves are enough to see them through a comfortable retirement. You will be shocked that most of those people still find that they have a shortfall in terms of retirement. So it's important that even if someone is employed by a company that offers such benefits, needs to sit with an expert, a financial planner, to advise them better. Then it stands to reason, of course, that with an entrepreneur, they who are self-employed, of course, they've got to see a financial planner to discuss retirement. It comes very quickly, and it's good to make hay while the sun shines.
All right. So, in your experience, do you see people that think they have sufficient cover and get surprised at the later age?
Yeah, let me tell you, I think there's a lot of ignorance out there. There's a lot of ignorance and maybe apathy, or it's just not taking things seriously enough to realize the position that someone may be standing in. I can hasten to say that way back, our fathers, our mothers, and all that were employed with companies, and of course they provided them with such benefits. Of course, they wouldn't know if whatever they are provided was going to be enough or not. But today, people have information. Information is all over the show, but they somehow do not latch into, focusing and seeking information specifically when it comes to retirement.
So if I were to ask for a personal opinion, why do you think people don't start until it's too late for some?
Yeah, some people think it's too expensive. It's a concept that they don't want to engage mentally. They think it's for someone else. No. Retirement planning.
Okay.
They think it's just too expensive. I cannot afford it. Some people can afford it, but not me. And some just don't see any value. Some will say, I can save this money for myself in my bank account. Why should I be locked into a contract that will only pay me out when I turn 55, 60 or above? I can do this myself. You know what I mean? Not realizing some of the benefits that come with some of these structures that are put in place for retirement purposes, both for entrepreneurs and people that are employed by companies. There are tax benefits that these products will entitle an investor to. But of course, if people do not come forward, or if we do not spread the word enough, no one will know.
So these tax benefits apply to me even if I'm in full-time employment?
Absolutely.
Talk us through, how do these work?
Yeah, one thing I needed to mention, one reason that people do not invest or start early enough, it's because they think they'll never be old. The guy is 22 years of age, 23, he's just started working. And if you tell him about investing for his retirement, which will come, some 38, 40 years later, no, it doesn't make sense at all. Zobana Pambi, that's the type of mindset. So ignorance, postponement, procrastination, and thinking that you're never going to get to retirement age are one of those reasons. Of course, people that are employed, if they decide that they will invest separate from what the company is given, they will enjoy tax benefits as well. So you have a provident fund with your employer, but you can choose to have a retirement annuity on the side. And how we do this, financial planners will do a calculation to say, okay, you Andando, you are 35 years of age, you are going to retire when you are 60. So you currently earn X amount. So when you retire, you want to continue receiving that income so that your standard of living doesn't drop. So in that case, we'll do a calculation to say, for you to be able to continue or to sustain your standard of living from age 60 upwards, given what you've got in your provident fund, let's say you've got R1 million, okay, we'll do a calculation that will say your R1 million is not going to give you the current income that we are used to right now, post-retirement. So for you to be able to receive X amount that you are used to right now, you need to add a certain amount. You need a certain amount of capital. You currently have R1,000,000 for you to be able to sustain yourself beyond 60. You need 3 million, for example. And therefore, we'll advise you how much you should start saving in a retirement vehicle on a monthly basis. Come age 60, you've got that capital and you can start living off it. So in many cases, people are not aware of that fact. They say, okay, look, I've got money in my provident fund, it will take care of me. But most times it doesn't. It's nowhere close to sufficiency.
How does this apply? Because the numbers you're saying, someone might listen and feel like this is middle to upper income stuff. It's not language for us who are not earning a lot of money. How does it apply to someone of low income?
Look, I think it's relevant to every one of us, because if we're blessed enough, we're all going to reach 60, 65 or 70, and we want to stop working. So whether you are a low income earner or you are a high income earner, high net worth individual, at some stage you're going to slow down and you want to stay at home and play with grandchildren and you need an income. So whether the amount that you need after 60 is 10,000 rand, you need to save for it. But another person may say, I need 60,000 rands at age 60 to be able to maintain my standard of living. So these two things are basically the same. The guy that earns 10,000 rands needs to save, and the guy that earns 60,000 rands needs to save. Even the one that earns 200K monthly still needs to save. So each and every person's individual circumstances have to be taken into place. And of course, there are tax benefits that come with it, even when it comes to your entrepreneurs. So I think we've been speaking mostly about
people that are earning.
Yes. So people that work for themselves, who do not enjoy those benefits from companies, can also invest in retirement saving vehicles. In general, a retirement annuity is what is used. So what it does, it's basically a contract. It allows you to, or it requests of you to invest a certain amount
every
that
month.
You shall have agreed to on a monthly basis up to the age when you turn 55, 60 or so. So it's generally contractual. And of course, you can increase those amounts going forward. And we encourage you. If you were earning 200K per annum and 2, 3, 4 years down the line, you're now earning R1,000,000 rand, you need to adjust your contributions. So the receiver of revenue does give some tax benefits for people that save for themselves. Remember, SASSA is government's way of looking after its citizens. But of course, if you are going to relieve the government from paying a lot more SASSA grants by investing for yourself, they are then going to incentivize you, by giving you a tax deduction. So when you fill in your tax returns, whether you are self-employed as an entrepreneur, or you are employed by a company, you can fill in tax returns, and of course you will mention, you'll be sent a tax certificate that you do have a retirement annuity, and this is how much you've been contributing for the year. And of course the receiver is going to give you some kind of concession.
If this is a contract,
yes,
and looking at entrepreneurship, the way it works with the fluctuating income, how does it work in the month where cash flow is not kind?
No, that's a very valid question. I think with entrepreneurs, as you say, their earnings are erratic. Okay, decide as to what is the lowest amount that I get under bad circumstances. For example, you can say your monthly income that you pay yourself from the business is 100K. What is the worst that can happen to that 100K is you earning 20K, for example. So I would say, if you are to invest for your retirement, consider putting the amount which at whatever stage, no matter how bad business can be, you will still be able to make that payment. Okay? And of course, but do make sure that in good months, you actually add to make up for the amount that you have not contributed. Because I said earlier that we will do a calculation to say, for you to retire comfortably and continue to earn the amount that you were earning in your productive years, you need X much. So as business goes, you will need somehow, where there is a shortfall, continue to inject funds into that retirement annuity or whatever savings vehicle it is, or retirement vehicle it is, to make sure that you catch up on the bad months. So yes, people should consider doing that. So retirement annuity can take the form of unit trusts, it can take the form of a traditional policy, which is a retirement annuity, and of course the costing thereof will differ. And of course it's good to sit with a financial planner to discuss the options as to which one would be best for you at the time.
All right, so 2 questions on retirement, and then we'll shift to planning for your death, which is that one that's a whole lot more controversial with many.
Yeah.
If this is a contract, can I withdraw the money before, let's say I'm 50 and stuff goes wrong, or I'm 45, stuff goes wrong in my life and I really need that money that's in that fund. Is there a way to access it, or it's locked, I cannot withdraw on it?
I'm glad you asked that question. we come across a lot of that, where someone would make contributions and at some stage they hit some kind of problem, and of course they want to withdraw funds from their investment. The answer is no. It cannot be done.
I can't get it.
And this is not out of malice, and it's not any form of fine print that was hidden. We actually make it very clear that these funds cannot be drawn under any circumstances. So as I can retract back to what I've said earlier, is you get a tax benefit from SARS.
Yeah.
Okay, you've gotten that tax benefit and you're still able to withdraw from the investment, then it makes a mockery of the tax benefit that you get. So it's one of those reasons that you cannot cash it in, no matter how bad the situation is. It's a contract that is not liquid at all. You can only get funds from it at the earliest age of 55. It's called early retirement. But other than that, it would only be from death or disability. Only then can money be claimed from retirement annuity. But other than that, under no circumstances can one withdraw any funds. The earliest time that one can withdraw for retirement purposes is only from age 55 and beyond.
If someone looks at that and says, but then isn't it better for me to invest this money myself somewhere where I can at least get some and manage it, not in that facility? What advice, or what do you have to say?
Look, there's nothing wrong in diversification. You can diversify. Some people will say, no, I don't want to be locked in a structure like a retirement annuity. I've got properties, I can save money in property, you know. We come across a lot of it. And some people say, I've got 6-7 houses. If I were to sell them now or at retirement, this is how much income I'm going to get from them. Nothing wrong with that, okay? But with a retirement annuity, of course, it comes with tax benefits.
No, I like the breakdown to say there is the benefit here, and you can diversify.
And you can diversify. So
you can put some of your income here and some, because when you do property business, anything that you're doing on the side, the level of risk as well starts to change.
That has to be considered. And of course, if you consider that you're getting tax benefits from a retirement annuity, I think it's a good thing. When you sell a property for investment purposes, you might have to pay capital gains tax on it as well. So I think one has to weigh that combination well and see what works best. Another thing, which is good news for entrepreneurs, even self-employed people, a retirement annuity is safe from creditors. If it happens that, things go wrong and you get sequestrated For example, a retirement annuity is one investment that is safe. No creditor can actually claim it in order to...
Not even SARS?
No, I've never heard of SARS claiming that. But as far as I know, it is free from creditors, yeah. It's a good question about SARS, but as far as I know, it is clean. It is free from creditors. So it's one good reason that entrepreneurs should consider a retirement annuity as well. It's got that safety element. Yeah, that safety element.
So if someone wants to clean house and get started now, what's the starting point?
Look, start as early as possible. Your first salary, you may be 22 years of age. The younger you are, the more advantaged you are, in the sense that when you start early, you don't have to contribute huge amounts on a monthly basis to try and catch up on lost time, you know. So contribute as much as possible. The general thought that flies or is 15% of your income, depending on someone's circumstances. Yeah, it could be 10%, 15. I've come across people that say, 15%, so little, you know, 20% or 25%. But generally, the rule of thumb is put away at least 15% of your income towards your retirement as early as possible. That will do. If you start at 40, you might catch up, but you may have to sacrifice a whole lot of other things that you were used to, you know, prior to starting the investment. You might have to downscale on your house, downscale on your car, or maybe downscale your kids from school just because you want to catch up.
Set this up.
Exactly. Yeah, you want to catch up on
So basically,
on
the later you are in terms of starting and the older you get, the more aggressive you will have to be
exactly.
building this up.
Exactly. So you might have to put a lot more money than you would have had you started at 22. Yeah, because time is everything. So spending time in the market or spending time invested, you know, is a magic wand. So if you came and you've got only 5 years to retire, and you want to you want to put a whole lot of money into it, you would have been far better off with lesser money but over a longer period of time. So the idea is start as early as possible, and no amount is too little. Whatever you can afford at that time, commit to it. And of course, start making those contributions. It will make a huge difference at the end.
All right. Have you come across this excuse? What if I don't live up to 65? I want to enjoy my life. Let me be.
No, absolutely. We come across that. And you can't argue against that. You know what I mean? But what you say is, but we all don't know, you know, what's going to happen to us, whether we're going to live long or we're going to die before we retire. But if you die before you retire, okay, fine, great, you did. It's fine. You know what I mean? you won't suffer any consequences of not saving. You know. But if you decide not to invest and you hit 60 and there hasn't been any amount that you put aside, there will be a lot of pain and regret. You know what I mean? So I'd say we don't know how much you're going to live or how long you're going to live. If you invest and you die early, your family or your loved ones will receive that money from the retirement. It doesn't disappear. It will be paid out.
Yeah.
But if it happens that you live to the age of 60, 70, 80, 90, you will reap the rewards of you having saved. So, we need to.
It's good that you're mentioning death in there. Why is it such a difficult conversation to have?
I think...
Why do you think people struggle to go to a financial advisor and say, let's talk about my debt so I see how prepared I am? Yeah,
it's we find this thought morbid, a lot of us. We think if we speak about death, we are sort of inviting it.
Law of attraction.
Yeah, so laws of attraction, exactly. You know, it's like you're inviting it, and therefore, let's rather not talk about it. If we don't talk about it, it's not going to happen. You know what I mean? It's like an ostrich hiding its head in the sand and the whole body is exposed. You know what I mean? So not talking about it exposes us. You know, excuse me. What I've picked up is that if you are insured, chances of a risk event happening, a death or a disability or anything, doesn't happen if you are insured. But if you are not insured, you are likely.
Do you think there's research that could back that up?
Nah, I won't be quoted on that. But it's something that I've picked up going along. You know what I mean? It's on that 1 month that you didn't pay A, B, C, D. That's something wrong with.
I do know a friend who cancelled his insurance and had an accident like 2 months after that.
Oh yes, I know.
And this
I
is
know.
after paying for years.
Oh yes, I know someone. Some time ago, some 10, 15 years ago, they actually reversed their insurance debit order. And the following day, they had a car accident.
Ooh.
Let me tell you, the lady was running around trying to see if, that reversal went through or not. But unfortunately, it had gone through. It was noted. The system noted it, So this is what I'm saying. If you are not insured, if you're not covered, it is very likely that you might have an event like that requires you to claim. So the suggestion is get
Just
insured.
Stay insured
get a retirement
for
annuity.
peace of mind.
Get your life cover. It will make sure that nothing happens.
Is it not a behavior thing, though, that the kind of people that normally value insurance are safe, even in behavior, even in driving and conducting themselves?
I think it's life stages. You may find a young man who will buy life assurance or disability cover as such, and yet they're still wild in the head. They drive a Verpa and they drive hard, but they know that they've got to have
Cover.
disability cover, dread disease cover. But of course, as one grows in stages, if someone gets married, they start cooling down a bit because there is a spouse and possibly there's children that result from that union, and therefore, even if you were wild, you start toning down.
Count down.
So life stages do contribute to how risk averse or a person is, going forward.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, beautiful. Let's talk about death and the will.
Yeah. Oh, that one.
Yeah, what happens? What have you seen happening? Painful examples of what happens when someone dies and they don't have a will.
Yeah. It just takes a long time for the estate to be wound up. Under normal circumstances, if a person has a will, they shall have written who their heirs are supposed to be on the will. The house will go to Ntlantla, the car will go to Ndando, and the townhouse in Balito will go to Mary, yeah. And those are your children, or they could be your relatives or whoever. It's someone that is close to you. Remember, you're not restricted who you can nominate as beneficiaries. You can nominate anyone as beneficiaries, but there are certain limits and conditions as well. So it is important to have a will, but I must say a will means nothing if there are no assets to back it up, So
Okay.
You may have a will to say, if I die, I want my house to go to my daughter. But does such a house exist or not? If it doesn't exist, the will is basically worthless. So the will needs to be backed up by assets. The assets can be, physical assets like a property, or it could be cash in the bank. It could be investments out there. It could be unit trust. It could be shares. It could be anything. But there's got to be some kind of value. Otherwise, there is absolutely no point in having.
You talk about assets.
Yes.
How do liabilities come in there? If I bequeath my assets to my child, but my liabilities, my debts are more than the value of the assets, have I immediately made my son or daughter inherit my debt?
Yeah, in a way. Because what happens is when a person dies, the death is then reported, then the executor comes to the picture. So creditors receive first preference.
Okay.
So if it is that you've got a mortgage that you're owing, the bank that is fine, the bank that is fine is due for a mortgage or for your car or anything like that, have to be paid first. So once all creditors have been satisfied, only then can your heirs inherit from you. So it is important that whenever you set up a will, do make provision for debt to be paid out, and whatever remains, it should be an amount that will allow the family to continue as if you didn't die. You know, if the family's income is 100,000 rands per month, okay, in your will, whatever you shall have done, make sure that the 100,000 rands is the net after all liabilities have been paid off. Then the family will continue as if you were still alive. But if you have not done that, you may find that after paying debt, the family will now have to live on 20,000 rand. So it is important to make sure that you make provision for such. With creditors, we're only thinking of the mortgage, the bank that you owe, the vehicle that you own. But it goes much deeper as well.
Okay.
I mean, if you've been in hospital for 6 months in a coma,
oh yeah,
you know, there's that hospital bill that has to be paid. I've seen someone that I've attended to. I think they were in hospital for less than a month, and the bill came to something like 200,000 rand. So can you imagine someone that stays in hospital for 6 months, at times a year? You know, can you imagine what that bill will be and what it will do to their estate? So of course, bills are important. They've got to be taken. Even the ambulance guy that came and took you from home to a hospital also needs to be paid. So it goes down to nitty-gritty of all expenses. So it is important that when we do estate planning, we actually make sure that we try and cover as much ground as we can so that the family is not left with a shortfall with disastrous consequences. Because what I'll tell you is, if there hasn't been enough assets, you know, to pay creditors, so the executor will sell assets in that estate in order to satisfy the debt. Can you imagine you've left a house for Mbali and Balisa, your little ones, but of course you owe the bank a certain amount. So what they'll do, they'll sell that very house that is meant to be their home in order to satisfy that debt. So I cannot overemphasize it. It is important that you do proper planning. I know people will go to a stationery shop and buy a template of a will and just write it down. Yes, it can be valid, you know, but does it take into account all these things that a professional will help you to identify and mitigate against them?
Doesn't the hospital example, doesn't it complicate the writing of the will in me deciding that, all right, if you see that I'm this bad, don't wake me up, I'm in a coma or whatever, don't wake me up, turn off the machine. Okay. Can I put that in my will let me protect my family so that I don't get in a coma for a year?
Okay. Oh, that's...
And everything gets eroded by the hospital.
That's forward thinking, Dando. I don't know who you've been hanging around with, but that's forward thinking. It's called a living will. Okay. So a living will is a separate document from the will. Okay, so a living will is basically a document, shall I say it's consent, from you to say, if I am hospitalized and I'm kept alive by life support and there is a 0 chance that I will recover. So if you are kept alive via life support, you're going to be in hospital for forever. And you know the bill keeps on accumulating. So this is consent by you and instruction at the same time to say, if this happens, if it is that chances of my recovery are 0, I'm kept alive by a machine, authorize the doctor to switch off the machine. And of course, you will save your estate a lot of money.
Okay.
So you can make
where do I
provision for
write
that.
who do I leave it with? How does my family know that it even exists?
Yeah, in many cases, a will document may come with that option. So you can choose to have a will only, what we call a testamentary will or a testament, to have a will to say how your assets are going to be distributed at death. But this other one is one pager in a will application form where you say, guys, if it is that I am not going to recover, I'm kept alive if I'm on life support, ask the doctor to switch off the machine. So you can find it. If you want it, you'll find it. You know what I mean? But of course, you may not find it because you don't know of its existence. You can't ask for something that you don't know exists. You know what I mean?
That's cool.
But
so I guess this will help someone to know that that thing exists.
Exactly. So if you went to a stationery shop and bought a will template, it's very unlikely that that will template will come with an option of a
living will.
Of a living will. So if you go to a financial planner, he will bring this up and you can make a decision from there. And of course, you do get people that will object and say, hey, what if these people switch the machine
too
early, you know what I mean? You can find that happening, but in many cases, surely someone that you shall have entrusted with that living will and that decision surely is someone that really you trust and that is not likely to do that. And of course, medical professionals as well will not willy-nilly, I mean, they've got their license at stake. So the machine will only be switched off if it's really medically proven that you were not going to survive.
Okay.
Yeah, without it, there's no chances of recovery.
All right. So you mentioned buying from the stationery shop a template.
Yes.
What qualifies as a will? For example, can I sit my family down and tell the kids that I want my house to go to this one? And that becomes my will.
Yeah. Then you are preparing for a wrestling match between family members. You know what I mean?
But that does happen.
It does happen. I mean, you can see even on some TV shows where there's an issue about a family house, who it belongs to and all the type of thing. You know what I mean? So you see there's a lot of family ructions because of inheritances, because someone has not clarified as to what must go to who. You know, so it is important, very important, that whatever will you draw is documented and it passes what we call a legality test. You know, so I would not advise someone just to do it on their own. Go to a bank, an insurance company, or an attorney. An attorney is likely to charge you for it up front in setting up the will, but you minimize chances of wars and wrestling matches in your family by being specific and by drawing a will properly that will not be disputed. Of course, people can dispute wills for many reasons, but of course, if you've done the best that you could with the help of a professional, chances are everything is going to go well.
I'm thinking of one of those reasons actually now, because there are patriarchal men who might have one son, three daughters, and say, I want everything to go to my son. Yeah. He's carrying my surname. These ones.
Of course. nothing stopping him.
Can the girls then challenge?
Remember, it's his money. It's his money. He can choose who he wants as heirs. You know what I mean? The only problem could be, okay, let's say all his children are above 18 years of age. Yeah. They are all majors. You know, he's not obligated to leave an inheritance for them. He can decide not to, and that should be fine.
Okay.
But if he says, my money should only go to my boy child, who happens to be a major, and the girls are minors, they're probably in school, and they still need to be looked after, until they grow to the age of majority, or maybe even go to varsity. So yes, he may say that he wants to disinherit them, but those heirs to be rather would have a claim against the estate. They'll speak to the executor and say, okay, fine, we do understand that he didn't want us as his heirs, but we're his children. We are his biological. There is a financial obligation on him, or a duty of maintenance. Yeah, I'll put it as a duty of maintenance for him to look after us until we are self-supporting. And that's generally up to age 18. But of course, in many cases, we wish that our dependents can go to tertiary institution for another 3, 4, 5, or 6, or 10 years.
So you're saying if my child has passed 18,
yeah,
they cannot challenge a will if I don't include them?
No, unless they are studying. Maybe they are studying by some other means. They can challenge and say, I need to be going to varsity. You were providing for me. You've got a duty of support. They can bring that application.
Okay.
But with your minors, there is not even a discussion. Minors are entitled to maintenance from their biological parents, and there is a legal duty of support from a biological parent to their children. There is no question about that. So they will have a valid claim of maintenance.
Okay. I've got a couple of questions in terms of how the will gets updated.
Yeah.
If I draft it and then I put my wife at the time or my partner at the time as a beneficiary.
Okay.
And then I don't update and then I change partners.
Okay.
What happens? Because 10 years later, I'm with someone else, 5 years, and I forgot to remove the other one.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what happens here is when you set up a will and you get divorced, unfortunately, these things happen. You are given a 3-month grace period to update your will, to change it. You can leave it as it is, or you can change it. If you want to remove a previous heir and replace them with another, you've got that window period to do that.
3 months?
Yes. But if it happens that you do not update, it is taken for granted that you did not want to make any changes at all. Okay. So therefore, if you were to pass on, the very person that was in the will before your new relationship will basically inherit. So if you have remarried,
even if we hate each other,
your new spouse, whether man or woman, cannot claim anything under the will, because you've been given that 3-month period to basically change the will or make the necessary amendments, and you didn't do it, whether because you've forgotten or you didn't want to. Yes, it does happen.
I imagine someone will watch the episode and run after
absolutely. So it happens. You get given that grace period to do that. And in many cases, it's easy to forget, because with a divorce, there's a lot of drama
going on,
and that's possibly the last thing that you can think of, because a will is operational only at death, and we all don't think that we're going to die one day. Yeah, we know it, but we do not take any action to try and minimize all the trauma and inconvenience, financially and otherwise, that can come through as a result of our death.
Yeah, I get you. So still on the updating, if I draft it now and 10 years later my assets are worth more than 10 times, but I didn't update the will, how is the estate treated there? Because what I would have named on the will is worth 10 or 100 times less. There's a whole lot more that came up.
Oh yeah, it's a great question. So what happens once a death is reported, and of course an executor is appointed to wind up the estate, they will do a valuation, the latest valuation of your estate currently. So if you started with 100,000 rands worth of assets, and now you are 20 million rands worth of assets, of course that will be considered, and of course whatever proportions you have allocated to your beneficiaries. You know, if you said Temba gets 5% and Mary gets 5%, and the other one gets
20.
Yeah, so it will be.
They use those
proportionate.
proportions.
Yeah, the 20 million will be divided like, you know, the 100,000 rands would have been divided. So it all works well and fair. Yeah.
Do you have instances where someone drafting a will forgets some of the assets and some assets are not named?
It's hard to tell, but it is possible. And I know there is a lot out there that happens. I know insurance companies lie with a lot of funds that have not been claimed, you know. And I should think banks as well, because someone died, did not inform anyone about the existence of a will, or some, it may not be a will, it could be been a beneficiary nomination with an employer that is done via HR, and of course the employees have benefits through a certain insurance company. So if it is that they cannot trace those dependents or beneficiaries, you know, basically that money will sit there in unclaimed funds.
And that has happened?
Yeah, that happens a lot. That happens. I think there's billions lying out there, unclaimed. Yeah. Yeah. So
you're reminding me of these fraud guys that say, I've got someone with your surname.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, they do that.
We can work together and claim this one because you qualify.
Exactly, you qualify. So, but give us 750 admin fee for you to get those funds. Yeah. So it does happen. Some people will not communicate with their immediate family. I would say if drawn a will, do inform someone in the family that you've got a will. It's with ABC company or ABC law firm.
Or
go
bank.
there, yeah, or bank. Go there in the event of my death, and of course there won't be problems like we see. But certain people will say, and I see it a lot in our demographic, to say, I will not take life cover because if this woman finds out that I've got life cover, she'll kill me. You know what I mean? So
and
it happens.
Your advice there?
I say, hey, but
because it's real.
Yeah, no, it's real. I've come across it many times, and I say, but so if you think Madame is going to kill you once she finds out you've got life assurance, why are you still hanging around here? You know what I mean? It happens, and of course,
I love it.
Exactly, and it's not only men. Women as well will say, I am Jady Lobaba, which I've got life cover. What if I die now? He takes my money and he goes and spends it with a girl that weighs 8 kgs. You know what I mean? So that type of thing.
Actually, speaking of that, what consideration or what advice do you have to clients when they, let's say, we're married, one partner dies, and the inheritance comes to the husband or the wife, the one that's remaining. But this one that gets the money doesn't go and share with the family of the one that died. Is there anything
look,
like
there
that?
is nothing legally binding. If, for example,
because I imagine it must be so for the family of the one that passed away to realize 10 million went to that one, we got nothing.
Yeah, look, if a guy is married, and of course he bequeaths his whole estate to his wife.
Yeah.
It's all her money. The fact that he doesn't mention his mother, his brothers, his sisters, his nieces, his cousins, they have no claim on the estate.
So the only way he can make sure they get a claim is mentioning them by name in the will.
Mentioning them by name, yeah. You just brought another thing to mind, is us black families, in many cases, I will live with my biological kids,
Yeah.
and maybe 2 of my sisters or brothers' kids or anything like that, you know, and I'll raise them together as
Yeah.
my children, you know. So if I now write a will and say I want all my children to benefit on an equal basis from my estate, what will happen is that come time of the execution of the estate or execution of the will, his biological children are going to be paid out. Those other 2 kids are not going to be paid out because they are not biologically his. But in Africa, they are all my children, you know. But when it comes
So
to
legally,
law,
if I just phrase it as my kids,
my children,
the
all
law
my children,
looks at only
biological children, exactly that. Those children, I don't owe them any right to anything like maintenance or anything like that. It's my kindness basically that they live with me and I get to look after them. So if I do not specify who my children are in the will, they will take the biological ones. But also, if I just say my children only, those 2 who are cousins to your biological children will not be considered because they are not your biological. So
does that also apply to a blended family where 2 people get married, they both have kids?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
And
that applies.
It does, because the assumption becomes they're all now my kids and my dependents, and I'm paying for school fees for all of them.
That's a good point. So if I get married to someone that has children, okay, I do not have any financial obligation towards them. I don't have the legal duty to maintain them. I may love them, I may live with them, I may do everything for them like my biological, but I do not have a duty to do that legally, you know. So if I do not include them in my will, there are no negative consequences coming up. They have no right to claim anything from me. The difference comes when I adopt them legally and say, okay, these are my biological, those came with my new partner, I then adopt them legally. Only then will they have a claim. But
full rights.
Yes, absolutely. So if you haven't, there is absolutely no claim. Which brings me to a subject of children born out of wedlock.
Okay.
You know, I think some time ago there used to be the term legitimate children and illegitimate children. Yeah, so illegitimate children are those that are born out of wedlock, and somehow they occupied a lesser status compared to your children that are born within wedlock, you know. But that has long been done away with. So a child that is born out there, outside marriage, and children that are born in wedlock, they both have equal status. They are entitled to duty of maintenance, and they are entitled to inheritance, provided, of course, they still at an age minors where they need to be looked after. Of course, if they are majors, then it's debatable. They can lodge a claim against their state for whatever reason, but whilst they are minors, they have a right to maintenance, and the parent has a duty to maintain them. So it doesn't make a difference whether they carry your surname or not.
2 questions on African traditional marriages. If I have 3-4 wives, can I name one of them as getting everything and leave the other ones out? And that hold up in court?
Yeah, you can. It's getting into more of the legal world. I'm not a lawyer, but I've got opinions about some of these things.
All right, so let's take your opinion on what you think.
Yeah. Yes.
And I guess we'll then say to anyone who wants to do it, talk to a financial advisor.
More to an attorney, especially.
Oh, this one
more
is to an attorney.
It's more about who inherits and who doesn't. It's more that, you know.
All right.
Yeah, but one thing I needed to mention was so I've got two things to express in mind. But they're both competing for
Okay.
For attention. It's the issue of how you are married, whether you're married in committal property or out of committal property.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So that is very important in a will. So if it happens that you are married in committal property, you can have as, you can mention as, you can nominate as in your will, but they should be in line with your marital regime. Okay, so if you are married in committal property, you can only bequeath only 50% of your estate to whoever. But the other 50% is reserved strictly for your spouse, whom you are married to in committal property.
Oh, yeah.
So if you nominate beneficiaries for 51 up to 51%, that 1% you have exceeded, your allocation, and that 1% needs to be dealt with.
Okay.
Yeah, so people should take that into account. And there are marriages as well that are customary unions. So a customary union, upon separation or upon divorce, they are seen as community of property. Okay? And that happens at death as well. That's why you see a whole lot of drama with celebrities passing away, and these court cases to prove whether this person was married to the person and whether it was in community of property or not. In many cases, people are claiming that it was in community of property. They were married first and in community of property. Yeah. So you find different judgments regarding what constitutes a valid traditional or customary union. Some will say there should have been lobola paid, and there should have been a ceremony to receive the bride, and there should have been gifts exchanged between the families. So, and they will say, okay, that constitutes a valid marriage. Okay, so in such a dispute, a judge may say, yeah, this is a valid marriage. So, in another case, you may find that one of the three elements is missing. Then they may come to a different judgment.
Okay.
So I would say to guys out there, surely if you know you are comfortable with this lady, make it formal. Make it formal. Either marry in committal property and know what its consequences are going to be, or marry out of committal property and know what the consequences are, and choose whether you're going to add accrual on the out of committal property marriage or not. You know what I mean?
And your advisor can talk you through that.
Look, I would say out of committal property is generally the safest. I know in many circles is if you want to marry out of committal property, your commitment is questioned. Are you really committed to this person? Why do you want to marry them out of committal property? Are you not committed enough or not? You know what I mean? And I don't think that is true. That is not valid. There is no person that marries in or out of committal property that marries with the intention of getting divorced at some stage. No. I think everybody goes there for keeps, for better or worse, till death do us part, But life is life. Things happen, and if you do get divorced, at least there is protection for both parties or the one party, depending.
Or if the one party goes and creates some serious debt.
Exactly. Yes, and like with entrepreneurs, in many cases, there are hustlers out there. They go and do this and that and that. In doing business, at times they land themselves in hot water, where their credit worthiness is destroyed, and they do not apply for credit anymore. They do not qualify for credit, anymore. And so, if you're married in committal property, your innocent spouse will be affected, and they'll basically suffer the same consequences. Unlike if you were married out of committal property, even if the one spouse is compromised credit-wise and all that, this other one can still help to carry the family, So, yeah, I would say, each one to their own. There is no prescription as to which one is best. As such, it's what works for you. But if I was to suggest anything, it would be marriage out of commuter property. Then you can choose if you're going to add accrual or not. I think it helps. And I think from an emotional point of view, I think people are less agitated. They are more freer if they know they are married out of commuter property, because they know they're secure. They can walk out whenever they want to. Unlike someone that
stays for the
that
assets.
stays for the assets. You know what I mean? And they may have exited the marriage a long time ago in their mind, but because of the trappings of assets, they may want to stay. You know, which is not nice. So, but of course, it will depend on each and every case. But I would say, before you make that commitment, see a professional. This would be a lawyer in this case to advise you properly. And I know in many cases people get married by their pastors in church. You know, you go there, they conduct the ceremony, you sign the register, and it's done. Only later do people realize that they are married in commuter property. You know, and if they knew better,
because that's the norm when you
exactly,
get married
that's
in
the
church.
norm. You know what I mean? So if they knew better, you know, they would have sought advice. They would have gone maybe and signed an antenuptial contract, then come back to get married. You know, so it's a long topic, but it's just one of those things that before you do anything, you know, seek information first, and of course carry on once
Thank
you're
you.
well informed.
This has been quite insightful. Thank you that you joined us.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure.
What final words do you have for young people? Two groups. Young people, because we've been talking about planning for your retirement and planning for your death, should, at whatever point that it comes. What message do you have for young people? And what message do you have for the elderly that have less years in terms of productive years, who have not yet started, and are getting anxious listening to this?
Absolutely. Yeah, I would say to the young ones, start as soon as you start earning an income, whether it's formal or informal. Start investing money for your retirement. Anything between 10%, 15% of your earnings, if you can afford more, do that. Do that with discipline. Do that with discipline. Never ever try and cancel or stop making those payments. They will be good for you in the sense that you will be receiving tax rebates on that retirement product. But you've got time on your side that if you start early, you don't have to contribute huge amounts that will compromise your lifestyle. So because you've got time, you can invest lower amounts that allow you to start out in life. You want to buy a house, you want to buy a car, you want to get married, you want to do all these things. So if you start as early as possible, less amounts are going to be required of you to. Another thing I want to say about young ones is you may not have a family yet, but do consider taking disability cover and dreaded disease cover. Because who says you might not get sick at 25, you know, and be disabled forever? So if you've got dreaded disease cover or disability cover, even at 28, if something happens that disables you, you still have money that will take care of you. The beauty about this is that the younger you are, the cheaper insurance will be, because generally when you're young, you're healthy, there are no comorbidities and all those. So start early, buy those products, and as you progress in life, you can start upgrading them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for our elderly,
they're not so young.
Like this is they're not so young.
They're not so young. Yeah. The not so young is consider your situation. If you haven't started saving for retirement, it's not too late. Do start. I think it will make a difference. If you didn't have 500,000 rand or 1 million or 2 million or 20 million rand, if you don't start saving, you'll never have it. But if you start saving, late as it may be, you'll have at least 500,000. So do start that. If you've got a family, there's a spouse and kids that you look after, life cover or risk cover is an imperative. It is a must. Go get it, because we don't know what can happen tomorrow. If you happen to die and you haven't left any money behind, your life cover becomes cash. You know, someone might say, I don't have money to leave behind, but an insurance policy is money. You know, it becomes cash immediately on death. So do invest in life assurance. Don't buy life assurance based on the premium. How much can you afford? I can afford 300 and okay, fine, let's sign you up. No. Go to a professional that will sit and calculate your assets, your liabilities, the expenses of your kids and your spouse, so that once you pass away, those expenses can be taken care of as if you were alive. So you will then decide on the spot. After the financial planner has done his calculations, he will tell you as to how much the premium is going to be. If it happens that the premium is beyond your budget, we'll simply adjust the benefits to be in line with your budget. Then next year, we'll do a review and see, has business increased? You know, are you making more money than before? Have you received a salary increase? Then if you have, then we look at those plans, we upgrade your benefits. That's your death, your disability, your dreaded disease, your income plan, your income protector rather. Those are very important benefits for any family man to have, and those entrepreneurs out there.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And thank you once again. Incredibly grateful that you joined us, Brajo.
It's been a pleasure.
This has been insightful. I know it will help someone.
We hope it does. We hope it does. Thank you.
As entrepreneurs, most of the time we get on the go and there are blind spots that we have. We forget planning for our death. We forget to plan for our retirement. And these things come because no matter how hectic you are, 20 years will pass and the reality of this will face you. And all I want with this episode is that you remember to think about someone that you care about, who needs to listen to this information, who needs to get their house in order, who needs to get started with this. Share the episode with him or her, and you will boost the channel. You will support them as you support yourself. Thank you that you've joined us up to this point. We appreciate those likes. We appreciate those comments. In the comments, just let me know what other questions you have around this and business in general. And believe me, we are going to make it a point that we bring someone to tackle them. Thank you and see you in the next episode.